Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com. Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy. Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Welcome to DSC's Campfires with Larry Weissoon, a unique blend of hunting, fishing, wildlife conservation, and the outdoor lifestyle. DSC's Campfires is brought to you by DSC, Conservation, Education, and Advocacy. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Taurus, award-winning revolvers and pistols. Stealth Vision, high-tech, precision-driven equipment for today's modern hunter. Mossberg, American-built, American-strong. Vineyard Max, deer attractants created for the aroma of success, game feeders, and other hunting products. Red 55 Winery, signature wines from Emmy Award-winning country artist Miranda Lambert, owned by Rick and Beverly Lambert. And the Choctaw Hunting Lodge, home of some of the finest hunting in North America. Now, here's Larry.
July is upon us, and if you listen very carefully in the background, you can tell I am not at the campfire. I love campfires, but when it gets quite this warm as what it is right now in Texas, I'll be very open with you. In the past, I used to run off to the southern hemisphere to go hunt in Africa or maybe New Zealand or even Australia or South America. I just don't like the heat, but living in Texas is something we deal with, and you probably just heard the air conditioner in my office go off or go on. And, often I'm asked, what's the finest, best thing that ever happened as far as an invention anywhere? And usually, if you live in Texas, particularly in certain areas of Texas, your response is probably about the same as mine. Indoor air conditioning that is cool air. I grew up out in the country where we didn't even have a fan, and grew up in the area not very far out of Houston, but back then it was about 80, 90 miles. The temperature would be right at 100 to 102, and humidity be about 99%, and it was hot. It was absolutely hot, but grew up in that situation, and if you did like I did and grow up like I'm talking about, you can understand why I feel like air conditioning, cool air inside the house is one of the finest things that was ever created. It is July, and it's not that far away until we start thinking about hunting seasons. Particularly, we've got in Texas and a few other places. Come to think of it, it's only about 6 weeks when you get right down to it until the opening of deer season in the lowlands of South Carolina. Hunted there probably 3 or 4 times in years past, and absolutely loved it, other than the extreme heat and the mosquitoes and such kind of things. But that's the earliest of the whitetail seasons that I know of. I know it's not long after that in some of the states, and in September we'll start having some archery type seasons as well too. Time to get ready for them. A lot of ways to do that, and we've talked about some of that in the past, whether you're hunt with a crossbow, with a bow, with a rifle, with a shotgun, with a muzzleloader, with a handgun. It doesn't make a bit of difference as long as you're hunting and you're out there. Be proficient is what you use, and get to know what you use very well, and now's a great time to do that. Again, doesn't make a bit of difference what kind of thing you're going to carry to the field to try to take that animal with. Years past too, I'd start really getting serious about this time of the year, having already booked a caribou hunt, say in Quebec, back when Quebec had a lot of caribou, and was able to hunt up there and hunted caribou quite a bit in Quebec off and on over the years. I also got to hunt over on Newfoundland for the woodland caribou, and up in Alaska for the western barren ground caribou, and shot some animals there, and then also up in the far northwest part of, or the northern part of what is now Nunavik, or what was then Northwest Territories, with central barren ground caribou. Those are absolutely beautiful. Those hunts I recall, oh my gosh, on my office wall, or actually out in the garage now, is a mount of an unbelievably huge western caribou, or central barren ground caribou, I guess you should say, because it was one of those caribou that had like 40 plus points. Didn't have a whole lot of tops. When you get right down to it, still decent top. Had what they call fog points, or those back points coming off the main beam about halfway up between the lower growth and the top growth. And both those are like 21 to 24 inches long. The front part, the shovel, and it's basically a single shovel. Now, sometimes they'll have a shovel, what they call on either side, but being a double shovel, this one had a single shovel with a little bitty double shovel on the other side, but it's about 24 inches from the top to the bottom. And then the bez points, which are the next main kind of part of the main beam coming up, those points were 16 to 18 inches long, and there were a bunch of them. At the time when I shot him, we were hunting up at Courageous Lake up in what was then Northwest Territories. It was the world record as far as some scoring systems were concerned. I never did actually put him in the book. I've not been. I score a lot of animals for my own satisfaction. Occasionally, I will put an animal in a record book, and to be very open with it about there, I really don't care whether my name appears next to that animal or not. It's to honor that animal for what it was able to do that to me is important. All that said, I am a professional member of Boone and Crockett Club, and we do score animals. And one of the reasons we score animals, I was asked that recently, and is that it tells me that what the health of that animal is. Healthy animals grow big antlers and big horns. We've talked about that in the past, and I want to be able to compare those antlers from a buck that was 3 years old this year to those antlers that were from a buck that was 3 years old 5 years ago, or a 5-year-old that was, comparing 5-year-olds from year to year to year. And as long as we're starting to see increases or continue seeing increases, I know that whatever we're doing in terms of management program is correct. Now, we talked about that a little bit. Bring that back up again, because I get tickled sometimes. I talk to somebody who says, well, I really don't care anything about antlers. All I want to do is shoot meat. Well, I love the venison off the animals that I take as well, too. But that said, I also kind of like to look at bigger antlers. To me, bigger antlers are a whole lot more interesting to look at than just little bitty ones. And I love the challenge of hunting those older, mature animals, whether it's a black bear, whether it's in the past a grizzly or an elk or a moose or mule deer or whatever the species is. I like hunting those older animals. They're a lot more challenging in so many different ways. By the time they've grown big antlers or big horns, they've been through all kinds of different situations, and they can be quite challenging. So to me, that's the animal that I look for. But also every year we try to take a certain number of does, knowing that we've got to take does or cow elk in some instances to keep that population in check of what that habitat can support in the worst of years, and not the best of years, but the worst of years. With that being said, too, I love the venison off of white-tailed deer. Over the last several years, I can remember when I was a little kid, we didn't have very many deer, but when we did take a deer, of course we ate it and were glad for it, but I remember those deer being tough. I remember those deer not being the best tasting in the world, had a very gamey flavor. These days, I'm not doing anything differently than what I did way back when. But the venison off the deer that we're getting today is just absolutely fantastic. To me, I love beef, and I grew up in the beef industry and the hog industry and even the chicken industry. That's what we were doing when I was a kid growing up. And I love all that meat. We ate meat every day sometimes 3 to 4 times a day. So I'm a true meat eater if you want to get right down to it, and I enjoy trying all the different things from the different animals that I've been able to take as well too. That to me is all part of it, all part of it. But talking about July, there's so many different things coming up here very shortly. We've talked about these in the past. Mayor's mentioned once again that July 10th through the 12th, the Texas Wildlife Association is having their 40th anniversary now. Back in 1985, Gary Machen, Murphy Ray, and I started that organization, and it's absolutely amazing where it's come to or it's gone to in terms of the scope of everything that it does. Among other things, we've taken probably, oh my gosh, close to 40,000, a little bit over 40,000 kids on their first hunt in the last years that we've had it. That's a lot of people introduced to hunting. Will all those continue hunting in the future? Yeah, I'd love for them to, but chances are they're probably not going to. But at least they've got now an understanding as to why hunting is important and why we need to have hunting if we're going to have wildlife into the future. Also started the adult learn to hunt program very recently, and that's been a very, very excellent program. Seeing lots of interest to people who are wanting to learn how to hunt, learning how not only to do the hunting, but also then to how to properly take care of those animals in terms particularly of the meat, and then taking it one step further, learning how to cook those animals, that meat that's procured through the hunts. That's a great program. Now, you know, conservation cost, and conservation is the wise use of rather than preservation. Preservation, actually, when you get right down to it, preservation promotes death. It's looking at one species at the absolute no caring about all the rest of them. Kind of like some of the wolf things that we got going on. We got wolves, and now we're going to have wolves that are going to have to start eating, I guess, more livestock, more pets, those kind of things, because a lot of those areas, they depleted the wildlife that's there. So that's preservation for you. Now there are wolves. There are no buffalo. There are no elk. There are no moose. There are no deer. There are hardly any rabbits. Maybe a few squirrels, maybe a few birds, but everything else is gone just simply because that wolf is a killer. He kills everything and kills indiscriminately as well too, unfortunately. So that's preservation. Conservation is what's happened in those areas where we control predators along with the prey species as well in terms of hunting. Hunting plays such an important part in keeping that population in check. And I'm talking about that, so you don't have an overabundance of predators, you don't have an overabundance of prey, the habitat stays in good shape that way, the songbirds, the butterflies, all those other little things in wildlife that we really care and love, they benefit so much more even than the game species when we do that. So, you know, if somebody tells you, oh my gosh, I love wildlife, what they really ought to be saying is, I love wildlife, and thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Hunter, for taking care of things so that we have wildlife today. In other words, if you love wildlife as you profess, buy a hunting license. It doesn't mean you have to go hunting. Buy a hunting license. Show your support of conservation. Be understanding as to why hunting is important and why we need hunting. And even in this modern day where everybody seems to think that things have changed so much compared to years ago, they hadn't really changed all that much when you get right down to it. So be proud of being a hunter. Be proud of what you've done and what you continue to do. And I know what you're going to do. All that circles back to the Texas Wildlife Association and the many things that organization has done in these past 40 years. Now, we've got a great convention coming up at the J.W. Marriott July 10th through the 12th. We've got some auction items because, you know what, conservation costs and the dollars that are spent at TWA, they go to really helping so many different things in terms of the wildlife and in terms of habitat. We've got a couple of those auctions coming up. One of those auction items that I am very proud of is that actually now 6 years ago, I decided to do a founder's rifle, being the primary founder of TWA. Love the Ruger number ones because of how that action is set up where the side, so there's blank sides on either side of the receiver, if you will. And I love to draw animals. And so my deal was, let's see, there are 5 species that are native to Texas in terms of what we call big game species, those being whitetail, mule deer, pronghorn antelope, desert bighorn sheep, and javelina. And so each year I did a drawing and with my signature and the year, and chose an appropriate round, if you will, a caliber round, always with very, very pretty wood that Ruger No. 1s have a tendency to sometimes have. And more recently, it seems like they're really starting to bring back some of the pretty wood again. Thank you, Ruger. Truly appreciate that. So with each of those are total donations. Do the individual drawing, only used in that one instance, and give the drawing to that individual who bought that particular gun. Raised a fair amount of money, and so I had told everybody after the fifth one, I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to find something else to do. And then I got thinking about, this is the 40th anniversary, 1985, 2025. So I decided, I will do one more. And the rifle that I chose, again, a Ruger No. 1, really going to be an absolutely fantastic piece. It's in a 270 Winchester. Now, for years and years and years, anybody that hunted in Texas, if you didn't own a 270 Winchester, you wanted one. But so many animals were taken with that caliber. So many hunters use it, and so I thought it'd be a really appropriate caliber and round to use for the 40th anniversary edition of the Founder's Rifle. Now, again, very, very pretty wood. And on one side of the receiver, I did a drawing. I decided to just limit it to 4 animals. So it's a drawing of a head study of a desert bighorn. To one side is a white-tailed deer. To the other side is a mule deer. And on top is a pronghorn antelope. Below will be my signature. And on the other side of that receiver is going to be the 40th anniversary TWA logo. Now, that's going to be auctioned off Saturday night at their Saturday night grand auction. And everybody's out there that would like to have that rifle will have that opportunity, in that you can go to onlinehuntingauctions.com. And I can't remember the number, but if you'll click on onlinehuntingauctions.com, go to Texas Wildlife Association, go to the Saturday night banquet, and look at the list there. You will see that rifle is a Founder's Rifle, and you can bid on it right there. Now, one of the other things that I did is, for years, and most of you are well aware of, the knives that I did, the Wycene whitetail knives. So I visited with the TWA group, and I said, they said, we need something, we want something kind of a little bit special. So I suggested, how about this? How about if we do 40 knives of my design, that I designed for the Wycene whitetail knives. We limit them to 1 to 40, and put the TWA logo, the 40th anniversary logo on one side, the 1 to 40 or 2 through 40, and so on the other side. And we'll have those done up by Silver Stag, who's been doing those knives for me, made totally in the USA, handcrafted up there. Everything really is put together right there. And I said, look, to make it a little bit special beyond that, how about we do this? I will donate a whole bunch of antlers from whitetail, mule deer, and a couple of axis deer to use for scales. So the 40th annual or 40th anniversary limited edition knife is one that I personally designed, has the logo on one side for the 40th anniversary, and then also the one, as I mentioned, 1 through 40 on the other side, with scales made from either whitetail, mule deer, and a couple of axis deer. And we're going to be auctioning off the number 1 knife and the number 40 knife. And I think the number 1 knife is up for auction on Saturday night. Maybe the 40th one, the number 40, is available possibly on the night before, on Friday night. Now, these knives are truly limited edition knives in so many different ways, and if you want one, and I got a feeling they're going to go quickly. They're probably sold out there at the convention, but if you really truly want one and you think it's something you'd like to have, let me suggest that you get in touch with somebody at the Texas Wildlife Association by going through the website, which is www.texas-wildlife.org. And there's a phone number there that you can call and say, hey, I want one of Larry Wysoon limited edition 40th anniversary knives. And maybe they'll hold it for you. I'm not sure how they're going to do this. We've donated the knives to them, and now they can kind of determine how they're wanting to do that. But that's the one thing that we got coming up. And then I'll come back and I'll mention this a little bit more next week. I want to get through the Texas Wildlife Association Convention again, July 10th through the 12th. Still plenty of time to be there. But then the following weekend, or the following week, the 17th through the 19th, is the DSC Summer Show and DSC Foundation Gala. Now, there's at the Gaylord Texan there in Grapevine, Texas. They're going to be 3 days, essentially, of absolutely fantastic booths, entertainment going on, all kinds of really great things. And, of course, culminating, there's going to be an auction, I think, on Friday night as well, too, to benefit DSC. But then Saturday night is the DSC Foundation auction. And on that one, we've got a bunch of different things that I'm involved in, including the black bear hunt with Randy Flannery this coming September. For a huge black bear. Randy's very graciously donated a hunt when he's usually filled up. He finally talked one of his regulars into trying to come skipping a year so that we could do this. We've got that. We've got a Coues deer hunt in Mexico down in Durango that we'll visit a little bit more about in Durango, Mexico, that is. Most fantastic Coues deer property I have ever seen anywhere in North America, and that includes hunting in several Mexican states. Absolutely love it. Some very close, a lot of amenities there as well, too, along with the same thing with the black bear hunt. We'll visit more about that next week. And then, too, the other hunt that I'm involved in is called the Choctaw McNab. Now, some of y'all are familiar with the Scottish McNab, where you took a salmon, a grouse, and a stag in the same day. Well, we're going to try to accomplish that for you on the Choctaw. Same thing, but there it's probably going to be be during the spring turkey season, so it'll be an eastern turkey, one of their exotics, which they have in a huge enclosure, including buffalo and a bunch of other different animals. And then they've got some fantastic fishing as well, too. So we're going to try to get somebody to be able to do that all in one day, but we're going to give you 3 days. So even if you do it in one day, you can come back and do some more fishing and a few other things and spend time there at the lodge. But those are just some of the many things that we got coming up there for that particular auction. So, and that too will be on onlinehuntingauctions.com. And you can go to DSC and also DSC Foundation Gala there, and it'll give you the list. Those things are currently already up for bid. So, and they'll sell those the night of the auction. So get in there, help conservation every way you can. And we mentioned TWA with the Texas Wildlife Association. You do not have to be from Texas to be a member of TWA, and the magazine is absolutely fantastic that they do, and the information that they put out and all the great things that they do. Same thing with Dallas Safari Club. It's not a Texas organization. It is an international organization that does absolutely great wonders, has for a long time now, and you can be a member there. And I need to remind you, too, that some of the conservation organizations, you can't get in the door to one of their conventions or one of their shows unless you're a member. Well, that's not the case with the DSC. All you got to do is show up, or you can go online and pre-register as well, too, to be there, but you do not have to be a member. Same thing with Texas Wildlife Association. We'd love to have you participate with us because of all the great things that this organization does, and really appreciate those folks who have been very much involved with us for all these many years, and those that are currently involved with us, and, of course, all those who are going to be involved with us in the future. So going to kind of close it out. We're going to kind of keep July pretty much commercial, if you will, at least till we get through the TWA and the DSC Foundation events. After that, I've got a bunch of guests lined up. Things, guys, you've heard about that you may have always wanted to meet or listen to some of their stories. We got those guys coming up. Got all kinds of new things that are going on in the outdoor world that we're going to be talking about as well, too. So we'd love to invite you, and please take this as a formal invitation to be right back here with us next week and every week thereafter on DSC's Campfires with Larry Weishuhn. Of course, that's me, so I can say thank you so very much for having been with us. Thank you for being with us, and look forward to seeing with you or having you back with us next week. Thank you all very much.
DSC's Campfires with Larry Weishuhn has also been brought to you by The Crown Bar in LaGrange, Texas, the Texas Wildlife Association, Double Nickel Taxidermy, and Burnham Brothers Game Calls.